Welcome to the Sankofa Ancestor Shrine, where, every week, we invite spiritual Black folk to reconnect with our ancestors as we journey through the crossroads. Please consider donating through patreon.com/Sankofa Shrine. Mother Earth, ancestors, while we are yet alive, it is upon you that we put our trust. Help us to find a way to contribute. Help us to find a way to find our own place, in a way to build this up even while everything seems to be crumbling down. While we face our troubles, our blues, our delays, our lateness, our obstacles, help us to find ways to work hard but play hard, to enjoy this plane while we're here, but still find ways to cultivate it and help it grow. Mother Earth, the Sasha, who receives our bodies at the end of our journey, help us to find comfort and peace and purpose as we walk this land and feel the soil beneath our feet. Ashe.
Spend so much time searching despair. Instead of watching, I did not pay attention to what it was that I should see. Maintain all you are. Stay on your throne through deliberate purification. Find your way back to your star. Spread your wings and fly. Spread your wings and fly. Through deliberate purification. Find your way back to your
Hello, welcome to the Sankofa Ancestor Shrine. I'm your host, Sacred Woman Practitioner Tatami, and today I would like to continue our conversation about revolution and making a change, protest, in our capacity as conjure people, as sacred women, as Black women, as people, who need to stay safe and need to find the, ways that we can help in the ways that we know how, and still feel like we can make a difference and can make a change. So today I thought we'd start with reading first the poem "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised" by Gil Scott-Heron, I believe an ancestor for the last decade or so. And then we'll finish up. I did a little bibliomancy to choose a page from the Dust to Onyx Guidebook so that we could wrap up with some spiritual guidance. The revolution will not be televised. Gil Scott-Heron. You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spiro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no picture of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on Report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still lifes of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of hairy armed women liberationists. And Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Keys, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live. All right, so I thought this was such a powerful statement because I know it's often this poem, or at least just the words, the revolution will not be televised, speaks of what they'll be showing on the news. People say like it's about censorship, but it's not quite about censorship, is it? It's about action. It's about, I actually said it to somebody the other day because they were getting so up in arms about the rioting and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, I recognize this person as saying not a month or so ago about how things need to change, about like radical change is necessary. And I was like, did you think it was all going to happen? Just you in the chats of YouTube, you tweeting to people, your Twitter fingers were going to do the job. That was going to change everything, was your hashtags. Like at some point, with these radical change, there does need to come radical involvement and action, and finding your ways to do that is really important. I think he really speaks of the fact also that, we know that we're not going to be the ones seeing these things, right? If, no matter what the media is portraying, I think probably because we have the internet, which isn't something I think Bill would have really thought of in the 70s when he made this, but we are not necessarily limited to the media, the mainstream media. We're able to find and share these videos that portray the real story, the absolute truth, which sometimes works in our favor, sometimes does not. Usually works in our favor, sometimes does not, should I say. And so people are not at home watching the TV and watching the propaganda as much. Some people are, and they're very confused about it. But I think that this is such a wonderful get up and be active about it, type of poem. But I did want to speak on this because he did say brother, right? And something that came to mind when people first started talking about looters and rioters was that if the looters and rioters are taking advantage in this moment, my mind immediately thought, what about the predators? And it's sad to say that, these thoughts of mine, they do not come just because I want to hate on people or see people as less than or suspect all men of being terrible people, It comes from my own experience and the experience I've seen in others. And as a womb practitioner, what I've heard in others, what I've heard others express for themselves. And I do sell a sexual abuse healing workbook and childhood sexual abuse healing workbook. So I know it's a pretty prevalent thing that people experience and need to heal from, unfortunately. And so recently, there was a young black woman named Oluwatoyin Salehu, I believe is her last name, Oluwatoyin or Toyin. She just recently graduated high school. She's 19, born in the year 2000, and it was a black man who preyed on her, who was driving around looking for a protester to pick up, and he, tortured her for a number of days, abused her for a number of days, and eventually killed her. And he was a serial killer, y'all. This man did it to an old white woman too, a 75-year-old white woman who's out there protesting for Black lives too. And so this is something that I was thinking weeks ago, that it was dangerous for Black women to be out there. Obviously, this is wildly beyond what I would have ever imagined to have happened to anybody. Nevertheless, 2 protesters, likely more in my opinion. There's no way he just woke up last week and started doing this. There's got to be other victims from the area that you should be able to trace back to him, in my full opinion. At any rate, my point is that it's really important for Black women to find a different role that is not, I think, us being on the front lines as much. I know that there's been a lot of propaganda lately, a lot of kind of warrior princess, strong Black woman leading the charge, even children, little children. And while there are times in the past where absolutely women-led marches, children-led marches have been effective for change in the Black community, I don't think now is that time, right? If the police are being violent to blonde Australian journalists, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think Black women being out there is the safest thing, unless that's what she's willing to do, is sacrifice. Sorry, my kids are all running up in here, but I think I was just talking about, I don't think now is the time for children and women of the Black community to really be at risk for this, because there is violence all around us. We are often the second thought for a lot of people, and there's just so many extra precautions that need to be made. So finding our ways to contribute, finding our ways that are, first off, having a buddy, having a system in place. That's why I was saying, when it came to dressing in white and perhaps doing healing work for people, definitely finding a partner, definitely creating a movement around that, so that you're not just alone out there. And finding ways that perhaps you can help that's not necessarily out there, again, marching on your own. Now, if you're somebody who does that, like I said, there are precautions that just need to be taken as Black women, and it can be frustrating, tiring, feel like a burden, but at the same time, there's just that hierarchy of oppressions, and Black women are just down here, so willing to be sacrificed by even those within the community, even by each other sometimes. So when I read the card for today, it was Judgement from the Dust to Onyx Guidebook. I thought to myself, oh, this is what gave me the idea for a lot of this talk. This is what gave me the idea to really talk about, the times and finding our own way, and ability to act and react within this, because, there's a lot of things that are really, disheartening, and difficult to assess as a woman, as a Black person, as many, of all of the different intersectionalities that come together and create each of us uniquely as who we are. And so when I saw this one, I was really just thinking, wow, this is a great reminder of what we're capable of and where we can still find growth, because these things do still benefit us. These things do still impact us. I follow and watch the channel of Kat Black, who's a trans woman, a Black trans woman, and she recently made a video about, is she still Black, even though a lot of the Black community rejects her. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, her Blackness does still impact her. So Black Lives Matter still, impacts her. And it's the same with all of us, right? Even if people reject you from that community, you still have an impact and a say on that type of oppression, because it very much impacts you in so many different ways, that, you know, maybe they don't understand or don't remember in the moment during their, you know, disgust or hatred of you, but it's still something that's real and something that you would want to fight for because it's something that impacts you. So that's what this is really about, especially for people who are, you know, feeling especially frustrated about the situation and about what we can be doing that can still help us but not be putting us in danger or putting us at the mercy of people who don't see us as people who matter. Right? We had to create a whole hashtag say her name because Black Lives Matter only seemed to be focusing on Black men despite its creation by Black women. You know, it's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifice of Black women and Black women's well-being and abilities. And, you know, I could go on for days about it. I definitely could. For example, recently I learned that Malcolm X was the first African American to take the trip to Mecca, the first African American Muslim to take the trip to Mecca. But before I knew that he only was able to go on that trip to Mecca because a Black woman, his sister, his half-sister, I believe, gave him her money that she was saving to take herself to Mecca. And so I think, you know, there's so many sacrifices that we make that just get erased into history, or we get not seen as such vital roles in history as we are. And I think that, you know, it culminates, that misogyny culminates into the types of behaviors we're seeing today, wherein most Black women are, you know, raped or molested by age 18, within their lifetime, but especially by 18. And the perpetrator is usually a Black man, which is due to segregation, obviously. In our country, the races live by themselves, so the crimes tend to be within the races. But it's still sad, and it's still very high, and a tragedy, and something that absolutely needs to be taken more seriously. And, you know, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of anger and frustration. So I thought that this symbolism of this Black woman with the butterfly blossoming across her chest was really powerful. So this is Judgment, page 58, if you have this book. The words for the awakened is reborn, awakened, clarity, and forgiveness. Dormant is unintuitive, hasty, empty, stagnant. Now that we've spent some time in our new state of being, it's time for our self-realization to materialize into deeper meaning and purpose. So basically, you know, we've been working at being sacred women, sacred beings, conjure women, conjure people, hoodoo men, however we identify. And as we journey into our path with our ancestors, we don't want it to just be, you know, Instagram pictures. We want it to be something deeper, something fulfilling, something that means something matters, working within our lives, working within the bloodline to create something better. We can now clearly see ourselves in this cycle of life. We atone for our misdeeds, take responsibility for the actions that have come before, and use those experiences to impart a gift unto this world. It is a time of reckoning, a call to a higher existence beyond our lower instinctual desires. This is an intense spiritual transformation and a time of clarity. We feel the urgency to get our affairs in order so that we can further align our decision and energy expenditures with our soul's purpose. Judgment emerges from the crowd to cast light and truth on all. A symbol of larger purpose and connection, Judgment also breaks the webs of illusion that once entangled our collective consciousness. A beautiful bright green monarch emerges from the heart and throat as a symbol of metamorphosis that has taken place within. This beautiful yellow-green hue brings healing and absolution so that we may release the grudges, regrets, and sorrow that no longer serve us. When Judgment shows up, it is a call to rise up and take stock in what you have to give to the world. whether big or small. Our lives are not ours alone, and we must remember the importance of the interconnectedness that maintains this balance. It is time to decide how we will use our experience and knowledge for the whole. This card is also asking us to review how we judge ourselves and others. Are our perceptions grounded in reality, or are we throwing rocks from inside a glass house? Our judgment of others is often a reflection of ourselves. All has been revealed for this time of deep contemplation so that we may walk confidently in whatever decisions we make going forward. So, I thought this was a very wise thought given everything going on, just because first it offers us the ability to not wallow so much in the negativity, but find ways to heal ourselves, build our own community, build within each other, and do so within the safety of what we know how. It also, I think, encourages us to find the ways to heal, connect, grow, give to the community that are our specialty, right? Where did she say it? Where did I? I don't even remember where I just read it. Oh, yes, when judgment shows up, it's time to rise up and take stock in what you have to give to the world, whether big or small. So I think that's important to remember, that even those really small things that seem really unimportant or seem like they won't seem like a big deal in the long run, absolutely are a big deal, absolutely can make a huge difference. And so I think finding ways to not beat ourselves up because we aren't like mumbo jumbo best healer on Instagram, most famous, best-selling author, or have our own TV show. I'm not sure, whatever it is we're thinking it should be, or that we're somehow not legitimate because this thing hasn't happened for us the same way it's happened for somebody else. This is a reminder that that's not what's absolutely important. What's important is that you do have skills that are your own personally to offer the world, in that you do have ways to offer it that don't necessarily have you feeling like you have to put yourself in a different situation that, isn't quite your path, or isn't your strength, or isn't a situation you're fully prepared to go into. Don't feel embarrassed if you're not fully prepared to go into the situation, or, feel like you need more time, or like this isn't the moment for you. Because I think following your intuition is what's really important. Following your intuition about whether it's actually is time to shut off social media for a little while, or if it's time to go ham and be really, active and spreading the message and spreading the word, because you're feeling that flow of sacred words right now. So I think everybody's going to be feeling something different, pulling them in a different direction, and finding the ways that we can to honor that personal message, as well as honor each other, find ways to protect each other, honor each other, and of course honor those who we haven't been able to protect for one reason or another. There is a whole community at large that does need healing, and so I think now more than ever, the work of sacred womanhood is necessary. The work of reaching within yourself and reminding yourself of who your inner healer is and what your different skills are, with the pendulum, with Florida water. I recently actually just made myself some Florida water. I have one more charging day to go with it for the solstice tomorrow. And Father's Day, and my husband's birthday. There's a lot going on tomorrow. But I have some Florida water here made with some nothing but flowers from the garden around my home. And this one I already had opened and used because I needed a splash. I was wiping down I think the bathrooms in the hallway yesterday. So I needed a splash, so I opened one up for myself yesterday. But it can still work. It's still working. All right, but anyways, we do have all these skills. We have our spiritual baths. We have smoke cleansing. We have earthing, grounding, walking outside with our feet bare. We have, calling our friends and pulling a card for people. We have laying hands. Even if we have nothing else, we have foot washing. But we have, ways of communicating and talking with each other to uplift each other, going live in the ways we can. So there are still so many ways, teaching and talking with those that are around us, healing those who we know who are coming home from protests, those different ways that we find as sacred women to still heal and work with. And of course, like I said, make sure we have a partner with us, I think, is one of the most important aspects of all of this. But yes, be safe, but also be active. And that also includes art. That includes the sewing and the creating and the painting and the writing, the music, whatever it is that we feel really drawn to be doing as sacred women, because as long as we're infusing that sacredness, the will of the ancestors, the energy, the ashe into it, it's something healing, and it's something that's adding to this movement, building on top of it, helping with the foundation as it builds up and up and up and closer to the goals. All right, so I'm going to leave our talk there for today. Thank you so much for watching, and may your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads. I will see you next week.